play the game while you listen.
What's going on here?
This ragtag crew of adventurers is covering the problems of the average player.
Where should I begin?
Discussing the homebrews, modules, and the latest content for all things D&D.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
It's Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything.
What you're feeling is so normal and perfectly natural.
With your host, the Pirate Captain.
Everybody loves me, and I don't know why. I'm an asshole. I really am. The Pirate Captain is a dick.
Chef Bolgg.
Let me take a couple steps back so I can, really get this point across.
It's bullshit!
And Loke the Bard.
Instead of making a deal with Cthulhu or, a greater devil, you found an imp who was willing to give you dark vision in exchange for a gallon of blood.
With a little mayhem, mischief, and a bit of bardic charisma, it's time for the show.
All right. This is going to be the longest FU in history, and it all stems from Loke the Bard. That's right. You did that on purpose, and I know why you did it, and quite frankly, I'm impressed. I'll give you that. It is I, the Pirate Captain, who is always with me, my bestest buddy, Bolgg.
I'm eating.
Why are you eating? Getting ready to start? You just ate. I just fed you. The bill was huge.
I'm always hungry.
That's true.
Hey, Bolgg, get in front of me.
Why?
Because I'm about to attack the captain and I need a shield.
Aye.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
You can't use him as a meat shield. That's not the topic of today, which we'll get into here in a bit. I am the titular Pirate Captain, as always with me, my bestest buddies, Bolgg.
That's me.
And Loke the Bard.
That's me.
Yeah, I could deal with a little bit less of you. You gave the ultimate FU to me by adding that little dark vision comment, and I
Vicious mockery is not just for game time; it's for intros and introductions and daily use.
Oh yeah,
He's a master at negging.
I'm still trying to figure out which one of you I let talk me into using adding bardic charisma to the end of the end of the intro.
Which one that was.
Yeah, you know what, Bolgg, do we really need him, or can we just
Suggestion is a hell of a spell.
I hate you. Quit using my own things against me. This is Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. I am, like I said, the Pirate Captain. My friends are here with me. Hey, this episode is actually brought to you by, because I have to get this out, it's that obligatory opening podcast stuff. It's actually brought to you by the Red Dragon Workshop, our friends that are, what?
We've never had them as a sponsor.
I know. Yeah. It's brought to you by our friends over the Red Dragon Workshop. They are the only ones that we trust to make our minis. You can find them on Facebook. They make some of the most well-crafted 3D minis, and they host some of the most awesome paint parties, ones which we are trying to get to. Trust us. We're always busy when we're trying to get to it. They host actually paint parties where you can learn to paint miniatures with our friends William. So, always go find them. Red Dragon Workshop Studios. You can find them on Facebook and encourage them to make your next mini. That's what I would do. I mean, that's what I did. I have my own little Pirate Captain mini. It's awesome. He sits on my desk. So, you guys want to be a tank?
No.
Why not?
I already am one.
Because I'm a bard.
Even bards could be tanks.
Bards could be tanks.
Yeah.
Sword bard.
Sword bard.
The sword bard is. We actually had Felix in a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how he was pretty much the tank of an entire magical campaign. I wanted to do something today that was a little bit different, where we actually focus on doing something different. And being different, I wanted to make a different type of tank. Yeah. We have other stuff that are on the topics for today, but I think if you wanted to create a tank that wasn't a non-traditional tank.
Well, before we get to a non-traditional tank, what are you defining as a traditional tank?
Anything that can take a hit.
Because, see,
me.
I think there are three different kinds of tanks.
Okay.
I think there's the armored tank, there's the dodge tank, and then there's the meat shield like Bolgg.
Yeah, he is definitely a meat shield. You just send him in there. He's actually a trap checker meat shield, too. He works really wood. Yeah. Really wood. Really good. Really good. Hey, it's like a piece of wood. I think that he actually does pretty well. Like, barbarians themselves are really great tanks, but I don't think...
Well, they're good meat shields because they're sucking up the damage. They're not dodging it. They're not avoiding it with high armor class. they're just straight, especially the Totem of the Bear, where they're halving all their damage to start with. They start with a high constitution. They start with that D12 hit die, and they just sit there and take the damage in place of the party.
But, I mean, if you actually look at trying to define a barbarian, is right now we're trying to define the the typical tanks. Like, when you play a game of D&D, who do you expect to be at the front line? Like, honestly, I could see a barbarian being a damage dealer, because I think there's only really one barbarian that's kind of like everyone else is a non-tank except for this one. It's like their spec.
Even the non-totems, they're still getting the half damage against piercing, slashing,
Bludgeoning.
Thank you. I was blanking. Blanking on
Leave
the
it
three.
to a barbarian to tell us about being a barbarian.
Yeah, but even they're still taking half damage on those,
And
they still have the D12 hit die to bolster their level per level hit die, hit points.
And Bolgg, as a character concept, was a damage dealer, but at the same time, he was also a tank. I was supposed to be up there up front, taking the brunt of things, even though I wasn't a totem barbarian.
Yeah.
I was a zealot barbarian. I was too angry to die.
Yeah, but that whole meat shieldiness, because they're not dodging the damage. They're just straight up taking the damage and dealing with
my
it.
AC at the highest was an 18.
Yeah.
But, I mean, rage, doesn't it increase your damage overall? Like, doesn't it?
It gives you a +2.
Yeah, but that's still something. But it increases over levels, right? Yes. Yeah, rage damage. It's not a very... honestly,
not a lot.
Yeah, I would honestly say, like...
especially,
we've
compare
given
that to the rogue sneak attack or the paladin's smites.
Well, we were giving that, we were giving crap to the monks a couple weeks ago, and I would honestly say this is kind of on par with that they really don't get, like, rage damage. So, like, this right here would honestly ruin my argument against why barbarians really aren't damage dealers. They're more tanks.
Yeah.
Because you don't expect your tank to do a whole lot of damage.
I think you're remembering Bolgg on that, because I actually had an arrangement with the DM where I became an Eye of Grumsh, and that's why I did so much damage. I dealt an extra 2d8 because I ripped my own eye out.
Yeah, but that's
not a book.
Yeah, we're
thing.
looking at the book right now. Like, we're trying to, like, this conversation's about how to build a better tank.
Yeah.
Like, or how to build the best tank, or something that's not even, like, supposed to be a tank.
But
how to build a tank that's not a
that's
tank.
the difference, though, with the barbarian. You are the meat shield. You are. It's all about straight. The hits are coming to you. The damage reduction is what's keeping you alive. You are not.
But there's nothing. But there's nothing to guarantee that the enemy's going to target you either.
It's a damage trades class,
and that's the thing with the meat shield. You don't have. Whereas the armored tank, where it's all about you have that high AC, so you're really hard to hit.
So how are we going to define AC? Because AC, like, that's your armor class, obviously. Right. So are you still getting hit and it just doesn't do any damage to you, or is it that you actually dodge?
That is what the theory behind the armored tank would be, that you are getting hit, but you're mitigating that damage. You've probably taken the feat like Heavy Armor Master, which reduces the first 3 hit points of damage you take from any single hit. And then there's the dodge. See, that's the thing with D&D. It doesn't separate the AC from armor class, and the AC from dodging are kind of the same thing in D&D.
But that's the thing, is like D&D doesn't actually run on the holy trifecta of D&D, DPS, and healer.
Right.
So you can actually do all 3 in one class.
Yes.
And not minus the bard. Like the bard, we're going to ignore the bard. But you're essentially able to do all 3, right? So I guess it comes down to it. Now let's just go back to the barbarian, because we're focused on the barbarian right now, and then we'll move on to what we think are the other tanks. I think the barbarian essentially was supposed to be a DPS class. Like, you have what's that new path? Is it the Path of the Primal, or is it, no? That's the Ruin Knight. That's the fighter. Never mind. The Ruin Knight's actually really cool, but there's really not a whole lot when it comes to barbarian. That I think you have the Battle Rager, the Beast, the Berserker, the Storm Herald, the Totem Warrior, the Wild Magic, and the Zealot, and the Ancestral Guardian. I really think that the Totem Warriors was supposed to be their tank, and the other ones do DPS. But if you look at it, their DPS tables don't scale very well. So I think that they were all meant to be tanks, and that they were just kind of like supposed to give a little bit sorry about that, a little bit more to them.
Yeah, the Barbarian is much more, like I said, they're the meat shields. Now, the unarmored defense, I think, was supposed to give them,
a little bit
the
more,
dodge tanky.
yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're
style,
a
you know.
frontline fighter, and it's one of the few frontline fighters that actually get a bonus to its AC for nothing,
Right.
like really nothing.
Yeah, it's more although I guess in lore, since it's coming from your con.
Yeah.
You're
just battle hardened.
You're just so tough, it's not hurting you. So it's not really the dodge tank, but it's still that you're taking your armor class is coming from your dex and your.
Well, con is also more than just your you're so tough, because you think about it, a lot of times when you go on boats and stuff like that, you use a con save to fight seasickness. So
because you're not.
If I beat it once though, and this is like a whole side topic real quick, if I beat a con save once for seasickness, should I ever have to do it again?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because I've been on a cruise, 7-day cruise, 6 days I was fine, 7th day I was sick as a dog.
It's probably something you ate.
Nope. Nope, I ate the same 24-hour pizza bar the entire time.
Yeah, that's why. That pizza was left from 24 hours before. Anyway.
Seas are
when we got
different
into
waves,
port.
different.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. All right, so outside of that. But anyway, so you have your con, and honestly, that of all the times that con's actually used in the game, this is actually one of the first times it's beneficial outside of like trying to determine health or something like that. I think it's just natural toughness.
And but that also adds to the tankiness, because the fact that you are one of the few classes that are benefiting from a high con above and beyond high hit points, the Barbarians most likely have invested in that high con.
Yeah.
Whereas a wizard may or may not have put points into con.
But I like that argument that we made a couple weeks ago, where we were talking about how I think sorcerers would do really well based off con.
Yes.
It was actually, I think, a point that you brought up, Bolgg, was that a sorcerer being based off con and actually using health as hit point or as your spell slots would actually be really cool, and I think that would be great, which will lead us into a later topic down the line. But I think that all tanks should have con, right?
Yeah.
So we should say that. So based off that, it would only be the Barbarian being the only tank in the game, because nothing else is really based off con minus this one ability in the entire game.
If you're thinking of tanks as meat shields,
Yeah,
only
Barbarian.
the Barbarian and the Moon Druid are really the only meat shields.
And Moon Druid's a stretching of that.
No, I don't think the Moon Druid is a stretch. I think the Moon Druid essentially is supposed to be the tank for the Druid class.
Yeah, but they're not a pure meat shield because they can't walk up just in their robes and take the damage. They
No,
have to wild shape.
They wild shape into a bear and take the damage.
Right, and the fact that is they
But
start
but
over at full health and they can do it again.
Yeah, and they are not dodging. They are not dodging. They are not mitigating the damage with their armor. They are standing at the front of the line and saying, "Hit me."
Would it make
Fair enough.
Would it make druids too powerful to give them the same ability that barbarians get? Not primal knowledge? Unarmored, to give them the same unarmored defense only while in bear form?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, because you take the bear's armor class.
What's the bear's armor class?
Like 12.
12? Okay.
But you could shapeshift into other you could shapeshift into something with an exoskeleton.
So maybe
has a higher armor class if you so chose.
All right, so maybe giving it to them when they're outside of druid form. How would that be? Would that be too overpowered then? To give it to them when they're not in druid form, only if they're the circle of the moon, they have unarmored defense. Because usually when you're playing that kind of druid, you're a shapeshifter druid. Your idea, you're probably playing closer to what the wild druid is, the World of Warcraft one, where you're playing either cat or bear druid. So I could honestly see us. I could see you giving unarmored defense to the circle of moon druid, 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your constitution modifier, which actually kind of like limits the barbarian, because it takes your three of your 6 stats right there. You think about it. You have to have some strength so you can wield weapons, and do a little bit of damage, dexterity, because you need to be able to dodge something, and your con, which is not your health. So
and really, even the barbarian is just strength and con. You don't need to worry about dodging if you're just going to tank it all.
Yeah, but how much? I mean, you can only face tank so much, because think about it. Rage is not that great of an ability. It's a great ability, but continuing a rage is honestly,
as long as you're getting hit.
Yeah. So,
you can purposely take a hit.
Yeah.
Like we've discussed that in the past as well, is that you can purposely take a hit.
Well, that's the thing with the Barbarian meat shield, where you are designed to be hit and not you're not built for armor class to avoid hitting. You're built that you have the extra hit points that you're going to survive being hit.
So that makes that argument now. Armor class isn't actually about avoiding being hit. It's the fact that, or it's about avoiding being hit. It's not the fact that you were hit and you took nothing.
Yeah, in D&D, it's one of those things where they've combined two concepts into a single concept, because the dodge AC from having a high dexterity is the same AC as wearing full plate armor.
I think you should be able. I think you should actually have to have both.
Yes,
I think you should actually have. If you're going to be like, you're going to design a tank character, you should have to have two. That was just me, but that's just me being like a little picky. So if you have advantage on strength checks and saving throws, when you make melee weapon using strength, the bonus of damage increases as you gain levels. As Barbarian shown in the rage table. So like final levels, I guess you'll probably be doing at least 9 damage, but that's just not a lot. But your rage lasts for 1 minute. It ends early. If like honestly, the ends early part of this is the clause that I have. I have an issue with the rage. You should be able to rage. You are essentially a Hulk. You're going in and just being an absolute brute about things. It ends early if you are knocked unconscious, if your turn ends, or you haven't attacked a hostile creature since your last turn, taken damage since then. Because yes, technically you can say, I bite my tongue. That is 1 point of damage. And that is dumb. Why not just end it? It only ends early if you are knocked unconscious, and that's it. Like if you get knocked unconscious while you're raging, minus, what is it, the Zealot? Or which one does it that has the...
unending rage.
The unending rage.
That's a higher level.
That's just a higher level thing, yeah.
Okay, so
that's the Hulk. That's the I'm always angry.
So this right here, like I said, like you shouldn't.
But it's an either or. You either take damage or give damage.
Yep.
I think you should take those clauses out.
Yeah.
I think absolutely, because why do you
carry a pocket full of mice and you just smush them?
Exactly. Like it's like there's so many dumb ways of getting, like, why even have that clause in there?
Well, it's just like you need advantage as a thief to do the sneak attack, but it's so easy to get advantage.
That one I understand.
Yeah.
And that one I understand. Like having to have like the most your opportuning attack is essentially what
it's intentionally put in there for the DM to have a out where they can make you burn your rage and lose your rage. Like, if all the bad guys run away to where you can't hit them, and he doesn't come up with a way to keep his rage going, his rage gets burned and lost, because he only gets 2 to start with.
Yep. Alrighty.
It's a mechanic for a DM who wants to to suck the resources from the party, and it's a resource.
But even then, the Barbarian has a D12 hit die. If you're
so
if you're at just the standard not rolling, that's a 7 at the minimum. Yeah. Every level you're getting of extra HP. Yeah. If you pick up top after that, if you're rolling like I do, you can have a massive HP.
He says rolling
step.
like he does, but he actually just means cheating, but it's cool.
I've taken 1 as my number.
All right.
And that's the thing. They Barbarians get the most hit points across the board. So they're built to be the meat sponge. They're the meat shield. They're built to be the tank that absorbs hits.
Mm-hmm. So
there are other kinds of tanks out there.
Yeah, and that's what I want to get to is like, so we have other tanks, obviously. So we're, right now, before we try to build a new different tank, I want to define what we think is a tank. So we have the meat shields.
The meat shield, yeah.
Now we have the AC tanks, the ones that, or sorry, not the AC tanks, because the AC tanks are going to be dodge tanks.
Yeah, well, the armored tanks, the armored tanks and the dodge tanks are both reliant on AC. It's just how they get their AC.
So I think...
So they're kind of the same thing in D&D. Outside of D&D, they're very different. In your head concept, they're very different.
Yeah. Like just looking at them in the side of my mind is just
and I always separate them because, you're who you're going to build as a armored tank versus who you're going to build as an unarmored tank, a dodge tank, are going to be very different.
Right. I still think that you should be able to give... the unarmored defense to a Druid of the Moon. Only the Druid of the Moon, though. It actually would be fun because then you could actually give them a rage. You can rage as a bear, I think. I think there's...
the Druid Barbarian... That's why the Druid Barbarian combo is such a powerful... One level dip in Barbarian gives you the rage. and then you rage as a bear.
Oof, man, I'd hate to be the DM against that thing.
Yeah.
So let's look at the other tanks. All right. So I obviously we can all agree that the Barbarian, the Fighter, and the Paladin, and maybe
I would argue the armored tank is designed for D&D is designed to be the Paladin.
I think the Fighter. Because I think there's too much to build into a Paladin to make him just like a tank.
But the Paladin is also the one class that gets the taunt ability.
That's not even a taunt ability.
Yeah,
like it's actually like a crap ass.
It's a single taunt for a single creature to fight you. Compel duel.
That is like, and it's the most crap ass. When I you want to talk about a taunt, it's the most crap ass.
But it is the only actual taunt in D&D.
You attempt to compel a creature into duel. One creature that you can see within range must make a wisdom saving throw, which now you have to put points into wisdom. All right, so now that's spreading out your points even more that you really don't have on a saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is drawn to you, compelled to you by divine demand. For the duration, it has disadvantage on attack rolls against creatures other than you. You must make a wisdom saving throw each time it attempts to move to a space that is more than 30 feet away from you. If it succeeds this saving throw, the spell doesn't restrict the target's movement for that turn. The spell ends if you attack any other creature. If you cast a spell that targets a hostile creature other than the target, if a creature friendly to you damages the target or cast a harmful spell on it. So it's good for like if you're fighting like big boss, like if we're fighting a dragon.
Right.
And the dragon spawns underlings, you can have Bolgg go over there and fight the underlings while the dragon's fighting me. Granted, how wise is that dragon is for doing that?
You can call over, anybody that's got a wisdom lower than your charisma, your spellcasting modifier as a paladin is going to come fight you first. And if you're a paladin with the, full plate armor and a shield, you're at a 20 AC. So hopefully they're not hitting you with their attacks that you've now called upon yourself.
Yeah, but if my friends now attack that dragon, now that dragon is susceptible, and I get it, it's a duel.
Yeah.
I like maybe a compelled fight would have been a better name for this and called it to give it some more variation. But you can only target one. There's no upping this spell for any reason. So you know how other spells like fireball,
and it's a concentration also.
Yeah, so you have to concentrate. So if you get hit by that thing and you lose concentration, you've
already called it over to you. So if it leaves you to go fight one of your friends because they hit it, even though it's gone for that second thing, then you're getting the opportunity attacks.
I mean, by that time, it's already fighting you, so you're going to get your reaction attack and stuff like that. But that's still, it's a weak level taunt.
It's a first level spell too. It's not.
I think that as it grows, it should be like, you can either taunt more creatures, or it should be that other people can target it, and it still doesn't have the effect of like, I'm gonna at the higher level you cast a spell, which paladins? What's a paladin's highest
5th level spells on paladins?
Fifth level?
5th, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to find out. Yep. 5th level. So at 5th level, I should be able to either compel the entire arena to fight me, or the others can fight it without it trying to fight other things.
Well, and then there are some paladin subclasses like the I believe it's the Crown that has their own internal paladin ability to compel a fight. They include abilities that are basically the equivalent of taunts.
And this is why I would say the fighter is a better tank, because the fighter doesn't require so much as the paladin does. Because think about it, the paladin, you have to have strength because you have to wear plate or have to carry the big stuff. You have to have cons, so you have a little bit of health, so you're not being completely blown away in one hit. You have to have a little bit of dex because you still need a little bit of bonus to your armor class. Now you have to have wisdom. All right, that's 4 out of 6 of the main stats. Like that's a crazy amount to build a tank.
Just charisma because you're
a paladin, which there's quite a few spells on the paladin list that just bring out that you have to have that. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think the paladin it is a tank. Yes, I'll give you that, but I don't think it when I think of tanks, I think the fighter is a better pick for a tank.
The fighter is entirely relying on its con and the armor it's wearing.
Yeah,
it doesn't have
con
and strength, strength and dex.
But it doesn't have any special abilities that anyone else can't get.
Human fighter variant, magic initiate. As much as I hate that, give it a compelled duel.
Right, but that
So now I'm a paladin. I'm paladin light.
Yes, but anybody, if you take the feat that lets you upgrade to the armor, you could have a wizard with heavy armor, a dwarven wizard that what is it, the mountain dwarf that starts with the medium armor with the feat to give them heavy armor. All of a sudden, you now have a heavy armor wearing wizard. So I mean, if you're working that way,
you're jumping too far into that one. That's conversation for later that we're getting to.
My point is, the fighter doesn't have anything special that makes them
the fighting styles. I don't think there's
like a defense fighting style that gives you a +2 to your AC. That's not much.
Yeah, +2 to your AC is more than nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's more than other people are getting. But there's plenty of different fighting styles. You have the battle master techniques and stuff like that.
The Paladin of the Crown, for example, you get the Champion's Challenge as your channel divinity, which is, as a bonus action, you can issue a challenge that compels other creatures to do battle with you. Each creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet must make a wisdom savings throw. On a failed save, the creature can't willingly move more than 30 feet from you. This effect ends if the creature is incapacitated. Yeah,
I got you. I beat you right there.
Yeah.
Ready? The protection fighting style. Right here. This is what's going to make you a better than a paladin. When a creature you see it targets another other than you that is within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to pose disadvantage on the attack roll. You have to be wearing a shield. So you're already up in the front line fighting, probably as a tank, as a fighter. The protection fighter is going to be better than any paladin because now that's a reaction. How many times can you channel divinity? It's based off your proficiency, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I can use that anytime I have a reaction. Yeah, it's one time. But usually let's say we have 5 people in a party, you may have maybe one or two melee
except
classes.
Paladins can get that same fighting style.
Yeah, how?
Second level fighting, they get a fighting style.
Do they get that one? I don't think they get...
Yeah, they get protection.
They get protection?
Yep. At second level, they get a fighting style. And protection is one of them, yeah.
So
the fighter gets absolutely nothing that makes them a better tank.
We get more fighting styles though, I think, and we can use interception when a creature you can see hits a target other than you within 5 feet. You can use your reaction to reduce the damage that target takes by 1d10 proficiency. Yeah. So we get more fighting styles. So fighters will get them more fighting styles. So I think the fighter's a better tank. Outside the barbarian, we're just talking about these two right now. We're talking about sword.
I'm even just saying.
We're talking sword and board. Sword and board.
See, but the paladin also gets things like what's the spell? Not sacred armor.
Sanctuary.
Not sanctuary. I'm blanking on the holy armor.
Shield.
The freaking.
What level?
It's like a first level spell.
Shield of Faith.
Shield of Faith. That's the one I'm blanking on.
Hold on 1 second. Shimmering field appears and surrounds a creature of your choice within range, granting it a +2 bonus to AC for the duration.
Yeah.
A creature of your choice. Granted, that can be you. Concentration takes away your compelled duel.
Right.
So,
but I'm just saying the paladin has more defensive tank.
Right, but
skills and abilities.
When you're burnt out on spell slots, going through a dungeon crawl,
then you're a fighter.
Yeah, but
with the same fighter.
But the fighter's already doing it, and it's doing it better. Like I said, you get more ASIs, which will now level out some of your issues that you would have. You can take Magic Initiate at one point and be like, okay, so I think the fighter is a better to build tank than anything else. And you have your martial archetype too, so you have. You could probably, I wouldn't do Cavalier, maybe Knight. Knight would be a good one. Not the Samurai. The Samurai is actually kind of garbage.
The only one that might work as a tank in the fighter category would be something like the.
Pretty sure it's the Knight. Like the Knight. No, that's not it.
No, the Battle Master. Where you may, if you take the right maneuver, your Battle Master maneuvers, you may be able to take on tanky aspects.
Champion. That's the one that actually makes a really good tank. When you choose a archetype, your weapons, one you get a little bit of damage back to you. Starting at 7 level, you add half your percentage.
The champion fighter is more of a damage dealer than a tank.
Yep.
But that little bit of damage will kind of help you if you're doing more damage out as a tank. It kind of there.
Yeah.
I think that I think their AE is a ruin too, but don't quote me on that one. We'll look at it later. But I think there's a ruin that actually helps you with your kind of your threat aggro and stuff like that. But I think that the fighter is hands down a better tank because, like I said, you're getting ASIs every other level after a point.
I think
and
they should have been designed to be a better tank, but I don't think they were.
But to think about it, how many ASIs are you getting as a paladin? 5, 4, 8,
I think
12,
you get one
16.
less than a fighter.
4, 8, 12, and 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Okay,
so you get 6 as a paladin. So that one ASI has to make up for all your paladin spell casting, your smites, and your paladin compelled dual abilities.
I can get Shield of Faith as an ASI, or if I start as human variant, it's just kind of like a stretch. Like honestly, a door fighter would actually probably be my pick to be a tank because you just have that health. I'm telling you, I think the fighter is better because there's
you can pick up those same
minor
things as a paladin.
The paladin spells don't get any better. So everything that they're getting at level 1, I can take as a magic initiate, grab them at level 1, and carry them on with me down the line.
Or you could just start as a paladin and use those feats for things that are like, Great Weapon Master or
Well, once I take toughness, if I take toughness at the first level, then I don't have to even worry about health, and I don't I have my martial archetypes, which, like I said, the Battle Master would probably be that, or the Champion are very, very viable options. You don't have to worry about your faith. I don't have to worry about running out of proficiencies or anything because there's very little that deals with the fighter that has to deal with proficiency.
Yeah, well, because the fighter is everything the fighter can do, a paladin can almost do. Almost. Yeah.
That's the key word.
Right.
That would
but
make
then on top of that, you get holy magic.
That would make the paladin less. I don't need holy magic. What does holy magic do? I have a cleric or somebody. I guarantee I have a cleric behind me.
One, you can heal yourself from any damage using your lay on hands. So if you're tanking damage, that's extra hit points to you. You have spell slots that you could use to cure yourself.
I'm probably stacked
or healing
in con.
word.
I'm probably stacked in con, and I'm going to do con and strength because I'm already trying to we're already accepting the fact that we're taking the hit.
You're right.
Or we're not meat shielding it, but we're mitigating a lot with our AC. Right? Is that what we're going to decide with this one? It's not a meat shield.
Yeah,
we haven't even gotten into the dodge tank yet.
That would be the armored tank. You're wearing full plane armor with a shield, so you have an AC of 20 plus any magical.
No magic. Let's just keep magic out of it. Let's just say 20. I'm telling you that the fighter just brings more to it.
Now the paladin has that same 20. Shield of Faith makes it a 22.
I can get Shield of Faith.
But you're wasting a feat to get that Shield of Faith.
So I'm either going to take toughness and have more health or take magic initiate, and I still get the same ASI that you do.
Right, but the paladin can take that same toughness.
But I think we have Indomitable, too. That helps us.
Just so you guys know, I've been able to do Christmas shopping while they're arguing about this. Because in my opinion, they're both about the same.
I think that
they're
the fighter
both about the same.
The fighter stands out.
The Barbarian's better. Both about the same.
The Barbarian's a better meat shield.
The Barbarian is a better meat shield, but I think
the fighter is not as good as an armored tank. Because
as less as the Paladin is, I would put a Paladin against a Barbarian any day. The Barbarian can mitigate damage, but if the Barbarian fails to do damage or have damage done against it, that's the end of that.
And that's
versus the Paladin can always kind of, for the most part, heal itself.
But you see, the Zealot Barbarian is always mad because at a certain point, it's a mutually assured destruction.
We're talking across the board. We're not talking about like this class or that. Or
so
we're not
talking
about
the Paladin, you have the armored tank ability, the same as a fighter. But then you also have the additional meat shield because you can heal yourself on top of that. Plus, you have the taunt abilities.
Yeah, but your healing is so lackluster because you have to spread your points.
It only takes 1 point to keep you from dying.
But it's so lackluster because you have to spread your points so thin. Versus the fighter, you don't have to spread your points so thin. You can do just 3 stats and be fine. Versus like the Paladin, if you don't have your charisma.
A Paladin with charisma and strength is really all you need.
And you're gonna have a high con because you're gonna have to. If you take so much damage, then you're gonna lose out on your damn damage.
That's what toughness and the healing.
Yeah, but then you lose your concentration, and then there goes your +2 AC. That's what I'm saying. Like there's too much spread out to make the Paladin better than the fighter. If the Paladin was a little bit more focused, like everything was based off one stat, like it should be. Like I think like most other classes are. If it was based off one stat, yes, I would put the Paladin above the fighter. But because you have to spread it out between strength, because you have to have so much strength to wear plate, right? Yeah. You have to have so much dex to be able to avoid certain things.
Well, see, that's the thing. If you're wearing plate armor, you don't need dex.
Yeah, but when you get hit with a spell, it kind of hurts. So that's what I'm saying. So you need a little bit of dex. Having a negative in your dex is really going to...
That's where Shield Master's the...
all right, you're losing a feat, which still puts me up now, too.
Which would be the same feat the fighter would use,
right?
too,
So
for the same
that's
purpose.
what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. They're basically the same. The difference is Paladins have spell casting.
Paladins have COD, fighters have just...
Fighters have ASIs. That's the difference. It's apples and oranges, but they're both fruit, okay? So it all works out that they're basically the same. Whereas
if
the
it was up to this guy,
a steak.
If it was up to this guy, this podcast had been over about 10 minutes ago. He'd been like, "Yep, we're barbarians. That's it, done."
But yeah, so both fighters and paladins can be the armored tanks. We seem to disagree, and Bolgg's not going to break the tie for us
because he doesn't want to. Because he's like, who do I go with? The guy that the podcast
if
is named after?
I'm going with Paladin.
You're fucking. You're a goddamn loser. That's all it is. That's what I get.
Nobody
wants to agree with the goddamn pirate
captain.
Because
tank.
Paladins, on top of being able to do all the same things the fighter can do in terms of damage mitigation, have smite. So I'm going to choose the damage
with so
dealing
many
as
things.
well.
So yeah, but I get crits on 19 and 20.
Okay.
That's actually a lot more useful than a spite that's going to run out when I run out of proficiencies.
By the book, book, that extra crit is
never.
I will. That is a level 1.
Yeah, but not when we use yours. But I'm telling you, you're always using. You run out of smites. Then what do you got?
Yeah.
You'll never run out of 19s. They'll always be there on the die.
You never run out of 20s either.
Yeah, but
Exactly,
the odds of rolling a 19 is 1. It's 1 in 20 extra versus.
It's 2 and 10. Thank you. That's how math works.
Yeah.
We do fractions. We reduce.
2 and 10 versus. Is 1 in 10 versus 2.
You got me, son of a bitch. You got me.
Well, it's 1 in 10. It's actually 1 in 10.
It's 1 in 10 instead of 1 in 20.
2 and 20, 1 in 10. So yeah, there we go. All right. Anyway, besides the point of me doing bad math. All right.
So, and then the last type of tank that I could think of would be a dodge tank,
which would be like a monk.
Like monk
or the rogue.
The monk and the rogues. If you invested correctly, the monk more so than the rogue.
Well, then I don't want to call that. I don't want to call that a dodge tank. Then I think let's focus on those 3: the paladin or the 4: the moon druid, the paladin, the barbarian, and the fighter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because if you think about a dodge tank, they're really outside of they can dodge. There's not a whole lot outside because monks get the unarmored defense, which help them give them a high AC
and evasion and
that's what separates them from the rogues. It's because the rogues don't get the unarmored defense. They still have to wear leather.
Right, but they still get the evasion and
the evasion helps. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. I think all tanks should take I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
I just don't think that we can consider them tanks because when they do get hit, it's game over. They're usually done
but they
down
are,
for the count.
You could theoretically build, say, a monk.
Quit jumping ahead.
Who is designed to be the front
come
line
to the
fighter.
other side of this glass and come and hit you. Quit jumping ahead. We're going to get to that. We are going to build a better tank or build a fun tank. But to classify them as the main tanks, as one of the main tanks, I think is just not there. All right, I think your 4 main tanks are your moon druid, your barbarian, your fighter, and your paladin. Can we all agree on that?
For the most part.
No, it's not for the most part. It's yes or no. The other 2, they can't take the hits or do anything like those 4 can. They don't bring enough to being a tank. Granted, there is no such thing as a tank in D&D, but these tanks, these shields, whether they're a meat shield and they're absorbing the hits,
but
like
you're
druids.
Bringing in the subclass of the druid into it, which brings subclasses of other classes into it, which changes the dynamic of the argument.
Then let's take the druid out
if you're talking about purely from conception base, it's barbarian, paladin, almost cleric,
No,
And-
because then you have to go back into the same subclass.
Yeah. See, I
I
would
mean,
almost leave the
it's-
fighter. I would say it's barbarian and paladins are your tanks.
No, it's the fighter.
I mean, clerics also have the heavy armor and the
Only
the
with
shield.
the subclass. But if we're doing the subclass, then we're gonna have to give it to. Then we'll have to give it to the druid. So we're either taking the druid out or we're putting the clerics in, and taking the
Clerics-
druids out or putting the clerics in with the
Clerics
druids.
should have access to heavy armor.
No, only certain clericks do. Only certain
Only war and tempest.
War Tempest, and I think medium armor. I think is the forge cleric. So hold on, shit. It's not many clerics actually get to wear.
Yeah, there are only specific subclasses that get the heavy
I
armor.
want to say I know for sure war. Let's see, Tempest, and I'm pretty sure Forge.
I think life gets it too.
Life, maybe. I think we talked about that last week. Yeah.
Because it's one of the reasons they're popular.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, life gets it. So
Life gets it. So yeah, all right.
So okay,
But just because you can wear heavy
Just
armor
straight-
but just because you get the ability to wear heavy armor doesn't make you a tank.
Which is the only reason the fighter's on the list is because he can wear heavy armor.
No, I would say that they can do shields and they have the fighting styles. We've already gone over this. You can sit here and try this. This is not going to work. I think the fighter's still a better tank. Okay, let's just take the subclasses out. All right, fighter, paladin, barbarian. Those are the three main tanks, right? Like if you were to, though tank is not specifically a role in DnD, those are your three main tanks. Can we agree? Because if we're gonna build these
for
classes,
sake of moving the argument along, yes.
no. It's not about. This is what this podcast is about. This is a debate.
Yes.
Then I would include monks
Why would you include monks?
because they
Based
are
off
also
level
AC
0.
Based off level 0, they also have the AC bonus. They are as hard to hit in the beginning as a fully armored fighter.
Okay. All right.
The unarmored defense of a monk, you could
'Cause you only
theoretically
need the two. You need Dex and Wisdom. Boom.
Yeah,
There you
Dex
go.
and Wisdom.
Dex and wisdom of a 20, you have that same
Okay.
20 AC
Fair enough point.
as
for
a fully
not.
plate mail and shielded.
All right. I'll add the monk. All right. So we can agree. Monks,
But they don't.
barbarians,
They don't get a D8.
monks, barbarians, paladins, fighters.
Well, that's why you're not a meat shield. You're just the AC.
yeah. All right. Monks, paladins, barbarians, fighters.
Because barbarians could get away with having a shitty armor class. And
I
still
guess
do
if
their
we're gonna
job.
put the fighter on there, we can put the monk on there, and then we can call it.
I'm gonna murder both of you.
I would
swear
leave
to
the
God,
monk
I'm gonna
and the fighter
stab
off,
both
'cause
of you.
Neither one of them makes a good tank, in my opinion. Okay.
I don't see why you don't think the fighter doesn't make a good tank. I hate to go back and replay half this episode.
the fighter can make a good tank.
I think the fighter makes a great tank.
The fighter can, if he fully invests in being a tank and spends all their feats
I don't
in being
need
a
magic.
tank,
There are
and
plenty
the
of
right subclass.
There are
But
plenty
that's the same as the Moon Druid.
There are plenty of games that we automatically nixed the Moon Druid because
Right.
it was a subclass.
Right.
And we
But
said no subclass. We're
that's the
saying
thing.
based on level
For
0.
a fighter to be a good tank, you have to go in more depth. It is not by default.
I think you're wrong. I think that even by default that the fighter can be. There are many games out there that outlaw almost all magic of all types. You're down to the barbarian and the fighter.
Yeah.
And the monk. All right. So we don't the fighter doesn't require magic to be a tank, where the paladin does. Essentially. For the points that you're saying to make it a better tank than the fighter, it requires magic.
But
there are plenty of games
it has
out
all
there,
the things that the fighter has,
but
plus
less.
magic.
We're getting back into it.
It's got all.
Okay.
The heavy armor, yet check. The shield, check. The fighting style, check. What
so
does
which
the fighter
subclasses make a good tank?
What does the fighter have that a paladin can't get that makes it
The
a good
fact
tank?
that I don't have to spread my abilities out very thin, making me less of a tank. Because if you don't have you don't have that great of a con, because you have to
But if
spend it
you're-
in wisdom,
if
so you
you're
don't
the
lose.
AC tank, that doesn't matter. You don't need the con because you're not taking the hits.
But you're still taking a lot of hits. You get towards later ends of the game, you know you're going to be taking hits.
If
How
you've
many
got
times?
a 30 AC, you're not.
How are you
getting
getting a
hit.
30 AC on a paladin towards late game?
Oh, you use the shield of faith, and you've got full plate armor, and then you use the Magic Initiate to take shield, and then
That's 2 concentration spells.
shield's not concentration; it's a reaction.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a plus. That's a 27 right there.
All right, that's still not 30. You're
Yeah.
still getting hit.
That's without any magic gear, without any fighting styles. You get the defensive fighting style. That's +2. That's a 29.
But I can still damn near get all of that as a fighter.
Right.
So why am I playing with magic with that? I'm going to run out and burn out on proficiencies, and I'm still capping ass at 19 and 20. So I'm saying.
No.
All right.
But yeah, so if we're going to include the fighter, we include the monk too. So
That's not that we're including the damn monk because of the fighter. That's not the argument.
That is the argument.
That is not the argument, you little slimy bastard.
I'm back to Christmas shopping, by the way.
Yeah, shut up. Sit over there and be a meat shield. That's not the damn argument. All right. 4 tanks.
4 tanks.
Monk. Paladin. Barbarian. And king of them all, fighter. All right, so we have these 4 tanks. So when we're building...
Them's fighting words, because I will always stand behind the Barbarian being the best tank in the game.
I don't want to hear it, Mr. Christmas Shopping. Remember, I wear a size 12 saber. Anyway, we're trying to build... Now here's to the meat of this episode. We sat here and we debated which one we thought is the best tank. And even I would probably lean, honestly, more towards the Barbarian. They just do, like, the damage, the flat damage reduction is too good to pass up.
Yeah.
That's why we talked about how people will spend 1 point into leveling into a Barbarian as a Moon Druid just so they can pump out the damage. Because 20th level Druids really don't get a whole lot.
Well, the odds of your campaign ever reaching that 20th level spot where you're getting the unlimited...
Yeah, the Archdruid.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. So
yeah,
you're well more than worth it just spending the point in there.
to spend the 1 level as a Barbarian to do the Barbarian Druid combo where you have the extra hit points from your wild shapes and the extra damage reduction from the Barbarian Rage. You can just, I mean, think about it, a D12 times what's an average high-level campaign? 10 to 15?
I would say 15, 16 at the highest.
Yeah. So, when you're looking at toughness and a good con, you're easily, in the triple-digit hit points at that point.
Yeah.
Every damage you taking, half damage.
Yeah, that's too good. Like damage mitigation, like if you're trying to be a tank, damage mitigation is your big thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what you want. And
if you're playing either the Paladin or the Fighter, you have to take the Heavy Armor Master where you're taking 3 hit points off of every attack, and you have to take maybe you take the Magic Initiate and you take like the Blade Ward as your cantrip, so that you get that same thing that the Barbarian gets.
You can actually take, and here's what it'll put the Fighter up over the Paladin. We only get an extra attack at 20th level. We can lose that at 20th level and just take that 1 level of Barbarian and not lose anything for like any great feature from our class, and be just fine having that damage mitigation.
That is an upside to the multi-class ability of a fighter is its biggest upside, because if you take a fighter and you get things like the extra attack and the action surges and those kind of things, you take just enough to get what you want, and then you add in to what you're really meant to be. You start as a fighter, so you get all the access to all weapons and all armor and all shields, and then you multi-class into what you really want to play. I
think it's backwards around, because you can't wear a shield and be a Barbarian and get unarmored, and you can't do it as a monk either. Right.
But see, that's what I'm saying. You have the ability if you so choose to use them, but you don't have to.
All right. Time to get into the meat of this episode. 20 minutes left in the episode, and we're finally getting into the meat of how would you build a tank that's not a tank.
Foreplay.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Well,
we really teased the hell out of this one, didn't we?
Edging.
We've kind of spoiled it a little bit already too, because Felix has talked about it when he was a guest on here. My favorite non-tank tank was the sword bard he played, because of the ability the sword bard gets where they can take their inspiration and basically it's a sword flourish that they apply to their defense.
Mm-hmm.
So when you add that 1d, 6d, 8d, whatever, depending on what level bard you are, into your AC for the next attack against you, and you're already, as a bard, with medium armor that you start with, you take the feat to get yourself the heavy armor.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, a 20 AC, a bard with a 20 AC because he's wearing full plate and shield, and is using this inspiration to give himself an extra D8 of AC anytime he gets attack. D8,
D10, D12.
You have to attack to get it. So anytime you go up and attack somebody, which if you're the tank, you're up front attacking.
Yeah.
You use that inspiration and apply it to your defense. All of a sudden, you're hitting that 27, 28, 29, 30 AC when they turn around to attack you back. And that's just ridiculous.
Yep.
I want to say that I honestly challenge that tank with and this is just like an easy one because I want to kind of get into like the more convoluted ones, like the Abjuration Wizard being a tank. But I honestly want to say that the Hexblade Warlock is probably one of the best, but you have to do it in a certain way because you can't just go straight Hexblade Warlock. You also have to have your pact boon, like a certain pact boon that would help you out, which is the Pact of the Blade, where you can change what your weapon is. So you can be like sword and shield, two-handed. And granted, you can do just straight shield.
Yeah.
And that right there will make you a great tank because now you can change your fighting style to meet what the combat needs.
Right. And, a lot of this, your racial choice affects it. Taking the mountain dwarf, I believe it is. One of the dwarfs get an armor.
I think,
I think
dwarf
mountain or hill.
I think the hill dwarf gets like health is what the hill is. That one does. So hold on.
I believe it's the mountain dwarf that gets they start with an armor proficiency regardless of their class, which makes it where it takes one less.
Wiki., your page is broken.
One less. Feat in order to get you that heavy armor when you're in a class that doesn't get heavy armor to begin with. Now, whether taking a level of fighter at the beginning to give yourself that heavy armor is worth it more than taking the race of like a dwarf, that's a different story. But
all right, so we have the dwarf right here. So you have different types of dwarves. But your constitution is already increased by 2, which is like a huge amount. Like you may not, a lot of people don't. Tool proficiency, stone cutting languages. You have advantage on saving throws against poison and resistance against poison damage is pretty big. Hill dwarfs, your hit point maximum increased by 1 and increases by 1 every time you gain a level. So 1,
so mountain dwarf though, look
3. So every time you gain, pretty much your level. Oh, hold on, is that stacking though? Is that like 1 plus 1, and now that 2 plus 1 is 3, that 3 plus 1 is 4? Is it
so you get up to 20 extra hit points,
which is huge,
just for being a hill dwarf.
Your dwarven armor training, you already have proficiency with light and medium armor.
So therefore, it only takes 1 feat, the heavily armored feat.
Or you're either doing toughness, toughness, or you're doing armor proficiency.
Right, but I'm saying for a normal wizard, it actually takes 3 feats to get them heavy armored. For a mountain dwarf wizard, it takes 1.
I think that wouldn't be bad. I think that the Abjuration Wizard, like I said, if I was to build a better tank right now, it'd just be an Abjuration. Like if you couldn't build it with the 4 tank classes, Monk, Barbarian, Paladin, Fighter, Fighter being on top. That I think the Abjuration Wizard would actually be a lot of fun because you have a lot of bonuses, like pluses to just improved magic, improved shields.
Yeah, your projected ward and arcane ward stuff that it comes as your class features or your subclass features for the Abjuration Wizard is basically Star Trek force fields.
Yeah, but if you have, let's say you do a roll for stats, or even if you're doing like a pregame stats right there, you're already having a pretty high intelligence modifier because you're a wizard. That's what you're supposed to be. And now you get to cast like big fat cat daddy damage spells on the front line. Imagine like fireball and having just your shield absorb the fireball damage because you have that plus
but
you're
an
equal to
Evoc
twice.
Wizard could do that without worrying about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Evoc Wizard is only cast. Yeah, he
But
can cast around himself, but he can't take the hits outside of that. Let's say that spell, it's twice your wizard level plus your intelligence modifier. So at 10, you already have probably about 15, 10, so it's 20, 25 extra points of bonus damage.
The Evoc, the Abjuration Wizard taking Blade Ward as a cantrip basically turns him for 1 round into a Barbarian where he's got the resistance to piercing, slashing, and
yeah, so it's less likely to lose concentration too.
Yeah, less likely to lose concentration because he's taking less damage.
And starting at 14 level, you have advantage on saving throws against spells. Furthermore, you have resistance against the damage of spells. So once you make it to level 14, you are essentially you're a barbarian when it comes to taking. You're like a magic barbarian.
Yeah, and then spells like absorb elements, which are if you're fighting a fire monster shooting fire at you, you reduce that fire damage.
So let's take this one real quick because I was thinking about the spell resistance. So you're starting at 14 level, you have advantage on saving throws against spells. Furthermore, you have resistance against the damage of spells. Would that include psychic damage if it's a psychic damage spell? Because it says resistance against damage. Abjuration wizards can be the best tanks out there if you build them right. I think right now, if you build a hill dwarf or a mountain dwarf, either one, you can pick one.
Yeah.
I guess it just do you want the extra health or do you kind of want to be able to wear the armor? Because you have to have strength to wear certain armor still too.
Right.
Whereas just having a lot of health. So that one I'm going to leave up to you.
You're also going to have to talk to your DM because certain DMs get funny about you wearing armor as a wizard, even if your character has proficiency with it. Some of them may do things. Oh, but you can't make the finger motions that you need to make while wearing full plate armor.
I was wearing gloves.
Yeah, well then your armor class would drop for not wearing gloves.
Yeah, that one's being a dick.
Yeah, but that's one of the things you got to talk to your DM when you're making these kind of non-standard plans.
You're the one that told your parents about leaving to go drink at a high school party, weren't you?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, you jerk.
But no, I'm just pointing out that
my parents are cool, man.
Before you commit to go in this, dwarven full plate mail abjuration wizard tank, you want to talk to your DM and make sure he's on board because he can screw you over very easily.
I outside of that though, this is your straight tank too.
Yeah,
this isn't
straight tank.
This isn't like I'm multi-classing into a tank class. And that's what I want to avoid. If we're gonna build we're gonna build something that's how to build something that's not a tank.
Yeah.
Without using the tank ones. I don't want to use any of the subclasses. I don't want to use, I'm going to take it over here, be a barbarian and stuff like that. This one right here, this is your magic damage tank. So if you're fighting a dragon.
Yeah, so a mountain dwarf that's taken the feat at 4th level of heavily armored has the same full plate armor capability as the fighter and paladin. Plus they have they have their arcane ward, plus they have
projected
ward, plus they have the ability to cast spells like absorb elements, blade ward.
I think the abjuration wizard is probably the one of the most
we jumped straight to the end boss here of what we're trying to make a point. Because I would agree the abjuration wizard is probably one of the most slept on tanks in the game. Because most others are just changes up of physical classes and stuff like that.
And the abjuration wizard's actually a good one for multi-classing too. So with the abjuration wizard, like I was saying, if you do that 1 level dip of fighter, you don't have to do the dwarf.
Notice how you didn't say 1 level dip to paladin.
No, but where you do if you start 1st level as a fighter. Pick up the heavy armor, the shields, the basic stuff that the fighter gets at 1st level.
And I'm not one for multi-classing. If I had to pick something outside of your major ones, now this is where we would get into saying hey, look, the forge cleric, the life cleric, and all these other types, and the moon druid. Yeah, okay, those are straight tanks. This one I think is actually slept on as being a pretty awesome little tank. In its own right.
And you could do this one completely without multi-classing, like I said, by the right racial choices and the right feats.
You could be a pretty awesome
could
little
do it.
wizard.
Yeah, the mountain dwarf, 1 feet as you're heavily armored, and all of a sudden you've got a abjuration wizard with an 18 AC to start with. Casting spells and the shield spell, the blade ward. All these are abjuration defensive spells, which will add to your defense. And then, when you get to those higher level ones, with the globes of invulnerabilities and I'm blanking on some of the other ones.
There's quite a few spells out there that just kind of like completely eat damage.
Anti-magic fields, invulnerability, the 9th level spell. Yeah. I mean, eventually the wizard will get to where they are the tankiest tank. You just got to give it time.
Yeah, but even then, like I think with the abjuration, you can somewhat at level 2 start out and be a pretty decent little essentially you're like a monk. Like you're there until you like take a really good hit, and then you're like, okay.
But even that the arcane ward that you start with, every time you cast a spell, you're getting temporary hit points above and beyond your standard hit points that you start with.
Yeah.
So as long as you're casting spells every turn, shield's a reaction spell. You're refilling your ward each turn, so that's that much more you're tanking each and every turn.
All right, so we took the easy ways out. If you could build a tank right now out of something that's not the major ones that we said.
So we covered the sword bard and we covered the arcane wizard,
and we also covered the hexblade warlock.
And the hexblade warlock. Yeah, and we cheated with the moon druid before because they should be on the real tank list, so we're not going to cover them either.
Yeah. So you got to build.
The next one I would go with would probably be something like the Forge Cleric.
Forge Cleric or War Cleric. Yeah.
Or War Cleric.
Yeah, because I mean they're Paladin lights. That's all they are. It's like having a natty light, except for it's a Paladin light.
Right, and the Forge Cleric gets things like at certain subclass feats where they're getting the extra AC from their Channel Divinity stuff. Not the Channel Divinity, the subclass feature where they get additional AC above and beyond whatever they're wearing.
Because they get to buff their armor and stuff like that.
And they get the fire resistance and then fire immunity eventually, and which if you're fighting fire monsters, it's awfully handy to be tanking. Fire monsters, if you know you're red dragons if
you know you're going in to fight fire monsters, you already know the end of your campaign, and
the most common damage type outside of piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning is fire.
Yeah,
maybe poison. Poison might be more common, but poison's
more things
also the most
poison.
resistant.
Yeah, and that's probably why it's more common.
Yeah,
I mean, you think about it. I'd like to see. I don't know. I think that the Beastmaster should be like a great tank, and I think your pet should be able to tank for you. Like there should be like a subclass of a subclass of where you can actually you take some points into Ranger, and you take some points into Abjuration Wizard, and you're buffing your pet.
They kind of tried to do something similar to that with the Defender on the Artificer, where you have the robot pet as your. From when we've seen it at our table, it hasn't worked very well.
Yeah, but I think if you
could build something.
I think the issue is you don't really have a taunt.
Yeah,
and I think that's what really hurts a lot of these. Trying to build a tank and something is not having something that draws the attention into the player.
Yeah, other than the compel duel, the next thing would be either the next closest things are the suggestion.
Yeah, but
build the Barbarian.
Or maybe command.
No, we're not doing that.
The Barbarian would work.
No one's doing a Barbarian.
It's actually
we're not doing.
It's a popular multi-class.
We're not doing that. We're going to pretend that doesn't even exist as a thing. In fact, we just know it doesn't exist as a thing. No one is doing that.
Just because you want to deny its existence does not mean it doesn't exist.
I'm pretty sure me denying its existence means it doesn't exist. I don't think. No, we're not doing that. You can't. First off, the conversation said you couldn't mix it into one of the four.
Yeah, you couldn't be part bard or part.
You can't be a barbarian. You can make it all straight bard, which we talked about the College of Swords. You could do bard and abjuration wizard to make a better tank. We're not doing the tanks into the other tanks. No one's.
So we've done So what about sorcerer? What's a sorcerer tank look like?
I would say divine soul and or clockwork soul, because I think those were kind of. I'm not too familiar with clockwork soul, but I know divine soul is kind of like their healing one. So you can kind of.
Wild magic, because they can't kill you if you kill yourself.
I love it. But even Clockwork Soul has a lot of like returning to turning back time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
if you combine like the Clockwork Soul with like the Lucky Feet and do like a dice manipulation tank where he's, I'm going to hit you. Oh, you hit. No, roll
now
that
you're
again.
Just making the most annoying.
No, roll that again. No, oh, you missed? Okay, that's the one you keep.
Yeah, that's more of the most annoying character
Halfling
versus
with Lucky and
half
Clockwork.
A Halfling Lucky Clockwork is a destiny manipulation tank. That's not one we had before.
No,
that would be definitely a unique tank.
But you could do the same thing with Divination Wizard too.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be me wanting to like kick a player right in the nuts.
Yeah.
Just be like, no, we're not doing that.
So
like that imaginary Barbarian thing.
So the one above that, the Rogue, I would say it would be Mastermind. Because Mastermind has an ability that allows you to take somebody who is adjacent to you and go, nope, they're the ones getting hit.
But that's
not a
tanking.
tank.
That'd be anti-tanking.
It's anti-tanking, but if you've got two enemies surrounding you, there you go. Now you're hitting that guy.
Anti-tanking.
It's the anti-tank.
You're giving the damage to your party instead of protecting your party from damage.
Well, no. You use the enemy's own damage against themselves.
You can't redirect the damage back to the enemy. Yeah, it has to be somebody I think you are friendly to. Hold on. You spend misdirection. You sometimes cause another creature to suffer an attack meant for you. Okay, so there's another. When you're targeted by an attack while a creature within 5 feet of you is granting you cover against that attack, you can use your action to have the attack target a creature.
No, you can't.
Actually, you can actually misdirect the attack back to the. Okay. All right, I stand Barbarian.
I was gonna say that I love rogues. I love playing rogues, but I've never tried to make a tank rogue.
But you got a rogue that runs up there into the middle of the fight and is hiding behind somebody.
This may be as close as you could get.
It's difficult to make a tank rogue because rogues are primarily damage dealers.
But
and
no, you don't. I mean, you can still be a damage dealing tank.
High enough dex that you have some armor class. You have things like the evasion, the what's the other one they have that they where they do
uncanny dodge.
Uncanny dodge. So you could still make the dodge tank out of a rogue. And if
you're technically getting bust of both right here because if you think about it, your misdirection tank, even if you do get hit, you can still send the damage either to somebody else or back to the target because it does say that right there. Yeah. This creature it's a reaction
as long as there's an enemy within 5 feet of you to throw that damage to.
It's the
more power to you.
It's the Naruto substitution jutsu.
No.
Well, the one specifically where they're on the test against Kakashi, where Kakashi substitutes one of the clones in for where he was.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's just too much of
but
it's
that's
funny.
A level 13.
And then you could spend the rest of your points into like Barbarian or something because it's only a reaction, you only get one reaction.
Right. When I played my Mastermind, I didn't ever use that ability.
Well, that's because you're a chump and you chumped yourself out.
I would think one of the other subclasses of it may be better to go with the arcane trickster and take things like spells that are on a defensive nature. I'd have to look at their list because they're limited to what they can take.
Yeah, they are very. I wouldn't even do that one.
That may be a better route, especially at lower level because. You have to get to 13 as a rogue before you get tanky.
You have to do the same thing though with the warlock when you do the Hexblade warlock because you don't get the. I think the armor of hexes, but the armor of hexes is only good in like single target stuff because it's only whatever you have a hex.
Prior to that, you've got your hex spells. You could take there's an invocation that gives you permanent mage armor. There are things you could do to make yourself tanky prior to taking the armor of hexes.
Yeah,
if you were intentionally,
you get the medium armor when you become that kind of warlock.
So if you're building the warlock tank, you can build up at the lower level up too, and yes, you get better at 10th level. But that mastermind rogue, there is nothing prior to level 13.
Yeah, but once you hit 13, you've got what you need. Now you can go be a barbarian rogue. And granted, we're not talking about that, but you can actually
that's a lot of levels.
I mean, now you can actually multi-class into kind of like one into the barbarian, which will give you your rage and your resistance. So even if you do get hit, now you're just kind of a little bit angry about it. Then you can put into abjuration, the rest of it into abjuration, and now you've got like wards and things like that to kind of help you even further mitigate damage.
Or you could take those first.
Yeah. So you can work completely in reverse.
Yeah, and then
I just think it's funny the fact that you can say, you know what? I don't feel like taking this damage, and I know that you're giving me this damage. How much you should take it? And you're like, but I should take this damage.
I off the top of my head, I can't think of what spells that are. I haven't played an arcane trickster in a really long time.
Yeah.
But I just thinking, what arcane spells do they get that have a defensive quality to them?
I don't think anything.
Arcane trickster spell table.
Charm person. Yeah, so you're more
charm
you get the first level wizard spells.
From enchantment and illusion.
Any school, yeah.
So any enchantment or illusion. So what's some enchantment and illusion first level spells?
Nothing that's gonna.
Let me set my filters here.
I don't think there's a whole lot that you're gonna get. That's illusion, just gonna be
enchantment. Okay. So that's giving you color spray, disguise self, destroy value. Illusionary skip, puppet, illusionary sleep.
Yeah, but if
cautious, hideous laughter.
If the enemy's asleep,
blur. There we go, blur.
Yeah.
So an arcane trickster with blur is second level spell. May get you past. I mean that's a lower level.
Yeah.
Arcane rogue that's giving you tanky abilities well before the mastermind would ever get to them. And you use one of your feats to take magic initiate, so you have things like shield or shield of faith. To give you those emergency.
I would stand behind that the best tank is probably the Abjuration Wizard.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they hands down. Like if you're gonna build a better tank, you're gonna have to do it. But I think we can all agree, and I'm pretty glad that you guys have finally come around that the Paladin is not better than the fighter. Thank you guys for that.
Anything about that?
I just wanted to.
Somebody fell asleep and dreamed something there because I basically think the tanks, if we're excluding subclasses, are going to go Barbarian, Paladin, Fighter, Monk in that order.
I think it goes Barbarian, Fighter, Monk.
You're just being contrary.
I'm not being contrary. I just don't think the Paladin is a good tank, but I don't think it's better than the Fighter. But that's it. You guys got anything else for us?
Barbarian best.
Yeah, Barbarian is the best. Hey guys, this episode has been brought to you by the Red Dragon Workshop Studios, where you guys can go get your miniatures. Go find them on Facebook. They're the ones who print all our cool fighter little miniatures that we use in all our games. They're great, man. Just let them know Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain and you guys. With that being said, say goodbye, Bolgg.
Goodbye, Bolgg.
Say goodbye, Luke.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
You've been listening to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything, featuring Loke the Bard. Like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast. You can also find them on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search for Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's Recipes for Everything. Questions, comments, and movie requests can be sent to bolgandpc@gmail.com. And as always, happy adventures.